What's up, everybody? So today I'm going to be talking about protein because I saw that my buddy Ryan Lowry has his Dexcom on, and I have done some experiments with the Dexcom. I love the Dexcom. I'm actually gonna throw it back on for about 3 months straight, probably in January when I do my next big experiment. What's up, Lauren? I gotta hear that podcast you did with Keto Neo. Looking forward to listening to that. What's up, everybody? So I'll be doing an experiment in January where I'm going to be doing a month paleo, a month keto, and a month carnivore. The carnivore month is actually going to be my adaptation of the Paleolithic ketogenic diet by Paleo Medicina. It's a fantastic group of physicians out of Hungary. They are doing some very interesting things. It's distinct from keto and distinct from paleo. What's up, Brandon? What's up, everybody? I cannot wait to hear it, Lauren. So what I do some days of the week, by the way, is I have Maura and the boys drop me off at the gym so that I can walk home, because it's about 3 miles. Sometimes I'll walk to the gym and back home, but it's just a time suck, you know, even when I walk fast, which today I'm not going to walk that fast because I'm going to be talking, so I'm not going to be out of breath. And there'll be times when I'll be looking down at my phone to see questions and stuff. But, you know, there's times when I have to be a little bit more mindful because there's times when there's no sidewalk. So I'm literally like in the bike lane. But I wanted to talk about protein because I posted a few of my favorite resources for gluconeogenesis and protein, and it's definitely a subject that is still very misunderstood. And I'll admit that I'm one of the people who may not be doing a good enough job of going into all the nuance of the whole protein subject. So, first of all, Ryan was wearing a Dexcom and he went to, oh, and by the way, for those who don't know, a Dexcom is a continuous blood glucose monitor, and it's awesome. You can literally look at your app at any second and you can basically see what your blood sugar is. So he had that on, and you'll see like that his blood sugar stayed stable even after he ate about probably 200 grams of protein at a local Brazilian steakhouse, which I'm super jealous, by the way, Ryan, because he went to the new Brazilian steakhouse here in Tampa, and I've been hearing about it. I still haven't made it out. So I posted a few of my favorite resources. The first one was the talk that Dr. Benjamin Bickman made at, and by the way, Rachel, I got your text, but I'm live, so I can't answer right now. Dr. Bickman talked about the role of insulin and glucagon on a low carb diet. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the nuance that there is. So I talk about not being afraid of protein on a ketogenic diet. Maura and I both have really tried to be more vocal about this because we see a lot of people eating very low amounts of protein, and it's just very, very difficult to keep lean mass on when your protein is that low. It just is. And you know, it's not me who's saying it, it's, you know, Phineas Volek. I think Dr. Volek had a paper probably 18 years old, right around 2000, 2001, where he was defending the ketogenic diet against claims that were saying that you lose muscle on the ketogenic diet. And one of the things he mentioned was a minimum of 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight on a ketogenic diet to keep your lean muscle on. So let's say me, I'm about 220 pounds. Well, I'm 224, whatever, but that's about 100 kilograms. So for me, the absolute minimum that I would need as an active person who's always lifting and always active would be 120 grams of protein, because 220 pounds is 100 kilograms. So 1.2 is, you know, 120. So that's the first part. The second part is that Dr. Bickman talks about when you're in a low insulin environment, protein does not necessarily raise insulin or, you know, cause blood sugar issues. That being said, there's a caveat, and that's why it's important if I share a video or someone shares a video, you know, shedding light on a subject like this, you should watch the whole thing, because he talks about at the end, if your insulin is not low and if your blood sugar is not low, it's probably not the right time to increase your protein. But if all of those things are under control, if you walked in and you had, you know, your insulin was at 10 and now your insulin's at 4 or 5, then that may be a time where you can play around with, you know, eating some more protein and you don't have to worry about it. Let's see who else is, before I continue. I've been tracking my calories, haven't been able to gain weight. Would taking protein help? I wouldn't recommend necessarily to take protein powder. I would definitely say to eat more animal meat. I mean, if you can fit some organ meat into your diet, that's even better. But even muscle meat is going to be great. Started working out and I started to gain weight. Is it just muscle? It's going to be muscle, and it's going to be glycogen, and it's going to be water. It's going to be some inflammation. So that's the main thing. So if you're someone who obviously has hyperinsulinemia, yeah, high protein is not going to work. But a lot of the people that follow me are people who are active, people who want to lift weight, people who want to put on muscle. So I would say to those people to up your protein. The other thing is, if you guys haven't noticed, I think his Instagram name now is Keto Coach Al Reeves, or Coach Al Reeves. A good friend of ours, Al Reeves, he did 2 shows. The guy's like almost 50 years old. He looks amazing. And his first show, his protein was a little bit lower. His second show, his cut was shorter and his protein was higher, and he lowered the fat a little bit. And he found that he was harder on stage, and he was also more sated. He had better levels of satiety. It looked like he kept more muscle on. And so that's been my experience too. The cool thing about having a higher protein version of keto is that you can actually get in a bigger deficit, in a bigger caloric deficit, and you won't really feel it because protein is so satiating. And the other cool thing is that because of that, more protein being on the diet, even though you're already in a bigger deficit, protein has a higher thermic effect. So it can be as much as 30% of the protein calories that you eat are burned off in digestion, because it creates more heat. So some people, you'll see Dr. Naiman, Ted Naiman, talk about how, what's up, Amy? Ted Naiman will talk about how protein should really be considered 3 kilocalories per gram of protein, because instead of 4, because it's usually what they say is carbs are 4 grams or 4 kilocalories per gram, and then proteins are 4 kilocalories per gram, and fat is 9 kilocalories per gram. Fat obviously has the lowest thermic effect of all 3 macronutrients, and protein can be as low as 3 calories because of the amount of calories that you're burning digesting the protein. So so someone's asking 55 to 60% fat. My fat this week is probably right around 64 to 65%. So I'm eating this week anywhere from 220 to 245 grams of protein a day. I just got a new butcher box, so like, you know, whenever I get a new butcher box, it's several pounds of really good quality meat. And so lately I've been moving through that pretty quickly. So and then the other thing is that I was eating more vegetables and fruits in the last several months, just kind of taking it easy a little bit and being a little bit less strict. I noticed that I didn't feel quite as good with prolonged just doing that for several days. And so if I have it like 1 or 2 days, then I don't feel anything. But if I have it for many days in a row, I just don't feel as good. So, but yeah, protein, my protein's anywhere from 25% on the low end to 35% on the high end. And I feel fantastic. I feel the cleanest I ever feel. Again, that's me walking around at like 10% body fat at, 220, 225 pounds. So that's me. And that's anyone who's kind of like active like me and metabolically healthy. If you still have high insulin, then probably not a good idea. Oh, and preparing all those carbs on, well, Amy, so you're saying, is that why I'm going carnivore? Part of it is like damage control, just in case I do eat a lot. But the good thing is that we have so many people to feed, and Maura doesn't want to do all that work, which I don't blame her. It's, 3 or 4 pounds of almond flour for the recipes alone that we're going to be doing, because we got 2 Thanksgivings. One Thanksgiving with my family, and then the next day Thanksgiving with her family. And the good thing is that they're large groups of people, so I doubt, no matter what, I doubt I'm going to eat a lot of carbs, just because my dad is getting a big pork butt, pernil, and then my mom and my brother-in-law is, he's going to fry 2 turkeys. Then I'm going to be grilling steaks for Maura. So I think this Thanksgiving is going to be very meat-heavy Thanksgiving. What's up, Roger? And so for that reason, the amount of meat that I'm going to eat, the amount of people that we have to feed with the recipes that we're making, I don't think I'll have access to a lot of it anyway. But I definitely would like to eat some of the Carrie Brown pumpkin squares. Really, really like those. And I'm going to make some F-bomb fat bombs to help Maura out, so she doesn't want to cook too much food and have to bring it down, because on Wednesday morning, we're leaving early on Wednesday morning, because we're going to meet up with my friend Omari on lunch. He's one of my best friends. He was in my wedding, and we haven't seen each other in person in 4 years, and that is by far the longest we've gone without seeing each other. So I'm going to have lunch with Omari. Then I'm going to meet up with my friend Mike Osuna. You guys will meet him if you don't already know him. Mike.Osuna on Instagram. And Train, Train, 8, the number 8, and the word 9, Nine. That's his gym, and that's his Instagram and his podcast. So we're going to record a podcast. So because of that, Maura basically has to do a lot of her cooking today, and then we got to freeze stuff to take it. So for that reason, we're not going to be having that much of the other stuff. I think I'm going to be eating a lot of meat. So, but either way, I just kind of feel the best with meat. I am definitely not tracking as much, because I love just not tracking my what I'm eating. I'm not tracking much of anything. Even my workouts, I'm kind of writing them on the fly. I shared what I did today, and so for that reason, I don't see myself eating a lot of vegetables, but I feel good not having to track right now. This time of year, because I know that in January, for 3+ months, I'm going to be stuck to MyFitnessPal, stuck to all the blood sugar and ketone readings and all the crap to provide, some hopefully good, valuable information for people. But okay, Patreon for Keto Evangelist Unlimited. That's so keto. I'm glad you joined. I'll make sure to talk to Brian today to make sure you should automatically get added if you provided your Facebook email. She's talking about our Keto Evangelist Unlimited Patreon. It's a way to support Brian and me. It's also a way to get access to our monthly challenges. This month, we thought it was appropriate to do a mindful eating challenge during the month of Thanksgiving. January is going to be crazy. We got plenty of challenges lined up. We also have Facebook Lives. We did a Facebook Live Q&A yesterday at 4 p.m. A lot of cool questions. Some of them were dealing with hormones and weight gain and stress. So, but either way, protein, I tell people not to fear protein, because there's just so many benefits to eating more protein. And so that's the beauty of doing my own thing and creating my own macro calculators, which I'm doing. I'm actually creating an app. Super excited about this. I can't go into too much detail, but creating a fat adaptation macro calculator, hypertrophy macro calculator, fat loss macro calculator, and then playing with all of the different body types to make sure that the macro calculator works for obese individuals, for really lean individuals. That's the tricky part. So that being said, my macro calculator is probably going to be higher protein, it's probably going to be lower fat. People who do well on a higher fat approach, more power to them. You know, honestly, I did that for over a year, my first year of keto, and I felt great. But protein for me is where it's at. I feel so much more satisfied. So that's just like, I guess I'm projecting that out there, but all I would recommend is that you try it. You know, you gotta try different things, and if I'm wrong in your case, then I'm willing to admit that. I don't know if you guys could see that or hear that. It's telling me that I just walked a mile in 17 minutes. I usually walk it in like 15 and a half minutes when I'm not going live. But can you do keto if you don't have a gallbladder and don't eat meat? I'll answer both questions individually. You can absolutely do keto if you don't have a gallbladder. You might want to do, for at least the first couple of months, take some bile salts like ox bile to help you process that extra fat. Some people find that they don't even have to continue taking the bile salts after a few months. So that's the first question. The second one is, can you do keto if you don't eat meat? You can absolutely do it. Will Cole has a book called Ketotarian that goes into all of the ways that you can do a ketogenic diet without eating meat. I'm obviously partial to meat. It's a little bit more complicated, more supplementation and other things to make sure that you address the possible micronutrient deficiencies that arise over time when you don't eat meat. So yes, you can be a ketogenic vegetarian. I would say that it's much more sustainable to do ketogenic vegetarian than a ketogenic vegan, because really, if you're a ketogenic vegan, it's just so restrictive. But I'm not going to be a hypocrite, because you know, a vegan can say the same thing about what I do, where, you know, I eat mostly meat. They'll say, well, that's so restrictive. You know, a ketogenic vegan is probably going to rely mostly on coconut oil, MCT oil, and avocados, and you know, so I don't know, if you love those things, then you can totally do fine. There are issues even with coconut oil for some people. They have issues with gut permeability. They have issues with possible autoimmune reactions to the salicylates in the coconut oil that can lead to things. You can hear Amber O'Hearn talks about that. Sometimes she'll get rosacea. But that's possible things that can happen. In the end, the body is so resilient that no matter what you eat, it will find a way to make it work. Will it be optimal for you? Well, that's to be, you know, that's something that you'll have to find out on your own. And what I find too is another interesting point is that most people, no matter what diets they do, most people don't really stick to a diet forever. So even if you are someone who's doing carnivore, you'll probably eat a few vegetables and fruits here and there every couple of months. Even if you are vegetarian, you'll eat some eggs every now and then, or you'll switch from low carb to high carb. So the data, there's no real data on any of this stuff. There's, as far as like long-term stuff. But okay, so thank you for making the distinction. Yeah. Yeah, Mary says that she only has 114 pounds of lean mass, so she cannot do 200 grams of protein. And Mary does not advocate for low protein. Mary loves meat, so she can't do. She tried it. She gave it the full try, and she just couldn't do it. And I know that it's frustrating for some people because you want to see the same benefits that other people get when you do some of these diets that seem like they fix everything. Like you want to have the Mikhaila Peterson experience where she found it. That was it. The other thing is, you know, there's other hormones involved. If you're perimenopausal, if you're menopausal, there's other issues that are involved that make this so much more complicated. So it's one of those things that you got to strike a balance. And like I said before, I'm as guilty as anybody of not speaking to the nuance that there could be. It's really hard to do on a story post or on a static post even, where you're talking about, you have a main objective that you want to get across with that post, and you have, the main thing for me is eat more protein. Start with protein. That's what Mauda does. Mauda does great. Mauda's built the best physique she's ever had on a very high protein, mostly carnivore approach to her ketogenic diet. Some people don't do well. Some people, I won't mention names, but some friends of mine who may be on this saw certain of their blood markers improve, but then other things get worse with a more carnivore, high protein approach. So you got to take all these things into consideration. It's complicated, it's frustrating, it takes time, because, you know, you may improve one thing that's super important to you, but another thing gets worse with one dietary approach. So we can always talk about how good one approach is, how good keto is. Some people do keto, they'll have kidney stones, and then, you know, we'll say, well, keto doesn't really cause kidney stones, but what could it be? Well, maybe it's the dairy. Dairy's been shown to possibly aid in stone formation. Dairy's also been shown to possibly increase tumor growth factors for cancers. So that's why I really like the Paleolithic ketogenic approach that I talked about earlier from Paleomedicina, the Hungarians. Some people, you know, they do really well on a ketogenic diet, but their main issue is gut health. And so some of these MCT oil, coconut oil wreck their guts. They're like, crap, I thought my gut was going to get better. Well, that's where the nuance comes in. That's where you start to think about what are the things that are, you know, these FODMAP, these low FODMAP or non-FODMAP diets, where you're making sure that your gut health is the most important thing. My frustration right now, it's not a real frustration, but I am super intrigued by this Paleolithic ketogenic diet, like I said, from Paleomedicina in Hungary. Listen to them talk to Fahad on Keto Geek. Fahad even went to Hungary to their conference last year. I think Amber O'Hearn also went. Yeah, Amber went as well. And so these people were a year ago looking into this group, and I was like, you know, not really looking into them. But I'm super intrigued by them because Dr. Clemens and Dr. Toth have both published about 50 papers total. They've seen amazing improvements with their patients, people who have nowhere else to turn. They're told that they have to be on autoimmune or immunosuppressants. They're told that they have to take all these different medications that are screwing them up in different ways. And so they use this Paleolithic ketogenic diet and they do great. But then what about me? What about Danny Vega, who has, you know, 205 pounds of lean mass, and they're advocating for a 2-to-1 fat to protein ratio, mostly pretty much a carnivore diet, no sweeteners, no dairy, organ meats pretty much every day if you can, or at least a few days a week, no coconut oil, no MCT oil. But the main hang up I have is for the performance side of a diet like that. There's no way I could do the 2-to-1 fat to protein ratio, because the reason why is, like, if I got my protein low enough to where my fat, the amount of fat that I'm eating, is not causing me to have bad body comp results because I'm eating way too much fat, then my protein's too low. So if I had my protein at 130 maybe, then my fat would be at 260. Then that would be pretty decent. Not too many calories. But then my protein's a little low for me because of the amount of exercise that I do, and the other reason why it wouldn't be as well is because I love protein. I love to eat protein, and I would feel every single day like, dang, I could have used some more protein. I could have eaten some more protein. I could have, because I want more protein. I want more meat. So then on the other hand, if I get my protein to where I'd like it to be, well then I'm eating, let's say 180 to 200 grams of protein, but then I'm eating 360 to 400 grams of fat, and I'm not having any MCT oil and any coconut oil, and I'm not really having much butter. So I'm relying on things like pork belly and short rib and ribeye and fatty ground beef and lard, and I don't know if that would be as palatable for me. I find I may suffer a little bit. So that's where I'm going to play around with modifying their approach from 2 to 1 to maybe 1.5 to 1. So if I had 180 grams of protein, and then I did 270 grams of fat, that would be 1.5 to 1. Then that may be the magic balance there. Someone asked me the name of the doc. Okay, the name of the doctors over there are Chabatoth. So Chabatoth is spelled Csabatoth. And Zofia Clemens, I believe her name is spelled Zsofia, and then Clemens, Clemens. They, like I said, I donated $30 to their research, so that I could get the document that outlines their full protocol. They also don't do, they don't do most fruits and vegetables, but interestingly enough, they'll do tubers maybe, so maybe like sweet potato, which is interesting. So those of you who have seen some sweet potato make it into my diet, well, it's mostly in my boys' diet, but I know people lose their minds if they see sweet potato on a plate. For me, my carbs are never above 50, even on a high day, and I can eat 100 carbs a day and still be in ketosis the next day, regularly, without a problem. And then they don't do sweeteners. So if if you would use anything that's sweet, they recommend honey. And again, going back to people who are metabolically healthy versus not metabolically healthy, there are many benefits of including local raw honey from your area where you live for immune benefits and all these things. But then again, if you're someone who's metabolically just not healthy and trying to improve their metabolic health, that could be disastrous. Definitely no stevia, no sweeteners of any kind. So these are the considerations that we have to look at when dealing with, number one, what's the best low carb diet for me? Number two, what's going to affect my performance and help my performance? Number three, what's going to improve my gut health and keep my gut health? Number four, what's going to help with my insulin and keep my insulin low and regulate my blood sugar? So there's lots and lots of stuff to consider. And Mary was frustrated, which I totally understand, because she's like, a lot of the ketogenic community is obese and overweight and trying to get healthy in general. And you got people like Danny Vega over here telling people to eat more protein. But I know that my audience a lot of them are in the bodybuilding crowd and all that. So I know a lot of them don't deal with those issues. So that's why I word things the way I do. Now, my battery's running out, so I'm going to cut it off because I just got the 10% notification. But I hope you guys got some good information out of this on protein and different ketogenic diets and what to consider. Either way, I want you guys all to have a beautiful, happy Thanksgiving. So much to be grateful for. And I'll make sure to share some of the things that I've been thinking about as far as gratitude for this year, because there's a lot to be grateful for, as always. So I know you love me. I love you too, Mary. All right, guys. I'm going to see if I could save this. I'm gonna leave it for 24 hours, and if I can save it, I will. See ya.